look, a lot of people don't, I want to emphasize, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that tune into this podcast that are like, you two know each other and you're having a conversation like you're at dinner over a glass of wine here. Wait a second, who's Paul Farrell? What has he done in opioids, and how did this all start? So I just want to remind the audience that you're one of the first attorneys in the country, if not the first attorney in the country, to bring attention to the opioid epidemic, because you witnessed firsthand in your small state, home state, West Virginia, the despair, the destruction of so many communities, where a tsunami of pain pills were shipped to your state for many, many years, and nobody did anything about it. So tell me about, this journey. Where did that begin, and what did that trigger in you in the process?
Yeah, you're right. I totally thought you and I were just catching up on a Zoom call.
I love it.
And almost forgot that we were. There's something about the MDLs that I think is worth talking about one of these days, and that is how I came into the transvaginal mesh cases and what I learned from it in the transition. But that's really beside the point. What happened is this: is that a newspaper writer in late 2016 got access to some confidential data that was turned over accidentally by the DEA in a lawsuit, and published it. And the headlines in December of 2016 said that 780 million pills were sold in the state of West Virginia over a 6-year window. Mm-hmm. Now, West Virginia only has 1.2 million people. We were also in the midst of this horrendous opioid epidemic. And for those of you that have not seen the documentary Heroin, and it's like the female version of heroin, or the drug heroin parentheses E. That's a story of 3 women from my hometown. It was nominated for an Academy Award. Three women from my hometown who have made an impact on the opioid epidemic. So the evolution of this was that our Attorney General settled the case against the big 3 within weeks of that headline coming out. And this newspaper article guy, he was documenting, and he was saying, look, you all need to pay attention to this. What happened is that the West Virginia Attorney General, he filed his lawsuits against the distributors 6 years ago. And the distributors hired one of their in-house lawyers to move to West Virginia and run for Attorney General and beat our sitting Attorney General. And now he's settling this case for peanuts. And that pissed me off. Eric Ayer for the Charleston Gazette, he won the 2017 Pulitzer Prize for investigative journalism.
Wow.
Right. And so I kind of felt like I had to take the next step. Right. And so I talked it over with my family and went to my law partners, and I said, look, I've been providing for this law firm for the past several years, and I'm going to take on this case, and y'all need to step it up to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about big picture, right? And this is the lesson that maybe I'll teach a class on one day, is I deconstructed this case all the way back to its origins. Okay, our Attorney General settled a case on my behalf. Well, he's just the attorney for the government, state government. How does he represent me? I started thinking about this and reading about public nuisance and understanding who it is that represents us and how we decided to govern ourselves, right? Our social contract. Rousseau's On Social Contract. What is it that we've decided is the right representative for me? And it turns out in West Virginia, the rules say that the county governments have the power to bring public nuisance cases. So I really didn't give a shit what the attorney general did. I filed a case on behalf of the Cabell County Commission. And I said, look, I don't know how far this is going to go, but I'll represent you. It's free unless I win. What
Right.
that means is that I'll take it on contingency fee. I'll pay for everything. If we lose, I eat the costs. If we win, I get paid, 25%. And they're like, we don't understand, Paul. Why would we, who are these distributor people? And
Yeah.
so then I showed them the data of how many pills. I said, these people brought delivery trucks to Huntington, West Virginia, and they delivered 10 million pills a year for 15 years. We have 100,000 people. Let's back up. There's 100,000 people in my hometown. And somebody sold 10 million pills a year. We had pharmacists shut down by the DEA. We had doctors that went to prison, famously went to prison. They wrote books about some of the doctors in the region, right? There's a book called Dreamland by Sam Quinones. It chronicles the Ohio River Valley and what happened here. And yet the distributors, the wholesalers, were delivering it in trucks of opium pills.
Yeah.
So to put this into a little more perspective, let's talk about opium. Some say that when Pandora's box was first opened, the first thing that popped out was opium because it's been around since the Byzantine era.
Yeah.
It's opium. It's addictive. It's opium. I mean, I don't even know what more to say. So we fought wars, the opium wars. Like you remember from history that when the British held India, with the sun that never sets on the British Empire. Well, that was an expensive endeavor. And so the British needed to pay for India, and they used India's #1 cash crop, opium, from the poppy plant. But they didn't want to sully themselves with being opium dealers. So they gave it a contract to the East India Trade Company to sell all the opium. So the East India Trade Company built the world's largest navy and shipped opium from India to China. Now here's the beautiful part of this story. The Chinese thought the white man were barbarians, hairy, smelly, disgusting sailors, and refused to allow them to come onto the mainland, and only allowed the white man to land in the peninsula to sell their wares. Well, after delivering so much opium, the Chinese emperor, he noted that there was problems. And so he passed a rule that if you got caught smoking opium, you got publicly whipped in the public square. Well, after whipping 10 million Chinese, the emperor thought, you know what, this isn't working. We're going to try to arrest our way out of the problem. We're going to execute drug dealers. So after executing 2.5 million drug dealers, he said, you know what, we can't arrest our way out of the problem. Let's stop the supply. So they barricaded the peninsula. And so the East India Trade Company responded by using the war powers given to them by the British government, and they occupied that peninsula that we now call Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And the British never gave up Hong Kong until the year 2000. They toppled the Chinese empire. It triggered the Boxer Rebellion and the diaspora of opium to the United States, where we began this cycle all over again. Because there's no new evil in the world. We just reinvent pain. So that led to the 1914 Harrison Narcotic Act, laudanum, Dilaudid. And then the next black swan event is the great American pharmaceutical industry decides we can make the molecular structure of opium even more powerful, and they invent OxyContin.
Yeah.
Right. So in my hometown, 20% of the babies that are born addicted to opium. right? That generation has gotten old enough now that they are now into elementary school and they're having enormous functional, emotional, physical, intellectual delays. We just have started the beginning of this. And so I just got pissed off and I decided to sue the sons of bitches. And the next thing you know, my neighbors called over in Boone County, Kentucky, um, up in Ohio, Scioto County, Ohio. And the next thing you know, I run into Pat and Mike Papantonio and Russell Budd, and we start signing up clients. And I ended up with about 700 of them. And then they all got consolidated into the MDL. And because of the backing of Russell Budd and Mike Papantonio, and because, they started with my clients, they selected me to be the co-lead of the MDL.